Hello and welcome. My name is Tsao-Lin Moy. I am a licensed acupuncturist and herbalist with a brick and mortar office in Union Square in New York City. I would like to thank the American Acupuncture Council for putting these Facebook Lives on for your education and for your enjoyment. Today, we will be talking about astrology as a form of Chinese medicine, and I hope you're going to find it very interesting. I find it very interesting, and it's a great way to talk about Chinese medicine that people also get very interested in. And okay, so we're going to go to the first slide. So I don't know if you knew this as a practitioner, that astrology is a branch of Chinese medicine. Oftentimes, we think about Chinese medicine as just being acupuncture, herbs, tuina, or body work, food, lifestyle, some qigong, meditation, but also something like feng shui is also the art and science of placement, and we look at cosmology. And so here we have a quote. Heaven is covered with constellations, earth with waterways, and man with channels. And this comes from the Yellow Emperor's classic, the Suen Neijing, and we know that that was somewhere 300 BC or older. And so please, if you are interested in this, definitely make comments, ask some questions, okay? And let's go to the next. Celestial movement of qi. So, for over 3,000 years, the Chinese zodiac calendar has been used to predict the future, to influence businesses, marriages, wage wars, predict how good the crops were, the health, and the prosperity, and ancient times, right? Even older than probably 3,000 years. And still today, it is very popular looking at astrology, looking at the celestial movements. And this is because they offer insight and another view of these forces from heaven, from outside of the earth, outside of us, that actually influence us as we're going through life, right? And as you know, a full moon can actually change the levels of the seas and also bring out intense emotions and transformation, right? We even have like a full moon. There are certain flowers that bloom only in the full moon. So you also may not, when this is going on, you might not feel like yourself. Sometimes I call this like werewolf. People feel that way, aggressive and anxious. And we can't forget also Mercury retrograde, which is something that we're actually in right now, where it creates a lot of chaos with communication. So if you've been finding, I don't know, your Instagram got hacked, like myself, or messages aren't getting through, or all kinds of interruptions, this is in part, to Mercury in retrograde. At least that makes you feel better that you know it's going to pass. So it is the stars above us govern our conditions. This quote from Shakespeare, from King Lear, and we're looking at the 16th century. So even then, in the West, there was this association of what is going on in the stars that is actually affecting us. This is actually a small video that it shows moving. It might not be moving here, but it's actually as the earth is turning, we're looking also outside in the cosmos, that things are shifting all the time. And I mean, we love to look to the stars for all different kinds of answers. And, we've got the Hubble, we've got all of these huge telescopes looking for life on other planets. And of course, we are continuously moving through space as a galaxy. There we go. Awesome. So this is where we're looking at astronomy versus astrology. So, the definition of astronomy is the scientific learning of planets and other celestial objects to study their origins, interrelationships, and future movements. Who knows why we're doing why we want to know all this information if it's not going to affect us, right? Astrology is also the astrology different is considered a pseudoscience. That's in the West, right? And that uses the scientific movement of the planets and stars to divine meaning and significance in people's lives. And the question that I have is, does this mean that natural science has little meaning or significance in our life? I don't think so. I think we already know that we have issues with climate change. We're concerned about solar flares, what that is going to do for us, and how that is going to affect us. We could say that it's. I don't think it's superstition. I think that's actually really called scientific, right? And it affects us. So, a little bit about the Chinese zodiac. All right, so this is an intro. You might know some of this. The Chinese zodiac is part of Chinese medicine. It is composed of 12 animal zodiacs that are paired with one of five elements. That's the earth, metal, water, fire, and wood. Right, and these we know in Chinese medicine as the five elements, as we're looking at in terms of diagnostically. The 12 zodiac animals, the rat, the ox, the tiger, which we're going into the tiger, rabbit, in some other Asian cultures might be considered a cat, the dragon, the snake, the horse, the sheep slash goat, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. So the Chinese zodiac is based on a lunar calendar year. Each lunar year will also have an elemental cycle that rotates. So the 12-year cycle actually follows Jupiter's orbit around the sun, which takes about 11.8 years. And this is why we're always kind of like moving when the new year is. And this difference differs from the Western astrology, which follows a approximately 4-week cycle, 4.2-week cycle. And most people, when they think of astrology or zodiacs, they're really thinking about, things like a Libra or a Scorpio or a Capricorn. So there are also fixed elements in the five elements that are associated with the zodiac sign, and those represent in terms of yin and yang character. And as we know in Chinese medicine, or looking at the balance of yin and yang, we always look for that dynamic force and how that plays out in terms of character and personality traits. In addition, each year is going to have an element, one of the five elements that changes. Therefore, the year has a zodiac sign and an elemental cycle. And there are 5 cycles of 12, which means you go through 60 years before you return back to the original zodiac and elemental year. Now, zodiac signs are an indication of the planetary energies you were born under, but not only born under, but also were influencing your development in the womb, right? Because you're floating in water, and this is considered that prenatal chi, not just what you were getting from your parents, but also as you were developing, there were actually cosmic forces at play. Okay, so this year is the lunar year, also known as coming up as the Spring Festival in Chinese medicine. Over 2 billion people actually celebrate Chinese New Year or the Spring Festival, and that's 25% of the world population. Now, the new year is going to be starting on February 1st, and for those that are born after February 1st, it will be the year of the tiger, and the element is going to be water. So here, the two parts make up the zodiac. Need to be, they need to find harmony and balance, and understanding the nature that these forces will help you navigate for a prosperous new year. So there will be the year of this year is the year of the water tiger. So the water element will have a powerful influence on all of the zodiacs, and also then the year of the tiger characteristics. Health and wellness and abundance in the tiger year. So here we're going to look at first the water element, because that is going to be, in my opinion, and what I'm sensing also is that the water is going to have a huge impact, more so than previous years. It is the element of yin, and the water properties allow it to be solid, liquid, and gas, meaning that it can transform, adapt, and move. Right? It is a powerful force that can also be very destructive, as we've seen with floods and tidal waves, but it is also necessary for life. 71% of the Earth's surface is covered by water, and the human body is over 60% water. So, water is actually part of our physical and biological makeup, and water also, as it's representing the yin, the dark, the cool, and the feminine, the stillness. Water element in Chinese medicine is also related to the bladder and kidney, in organs and meridians. I'm going to put like more meridian organ. For the new year, the theme: be like water, go with the flow. Don't fight against the currents, because they can drain your energy and life force. Excuse me. And in this case, we're talking about the qi and referring to the kidney essence, that jing. And in Chinese medicine, draining that kidney essence, the jing, is really akin to the adrenals, and those actually sit on top of the kidneys. So really, we got to look at not burning ourselves out. So the next part of the zodiac is the tiger zodiac, and that is yang in nature. So here we've got yin and yang. The character is very courageous, very bold, action oriented. They Tigers are independent thinkers and can be very impatient, waiting to leap in and to take control of a situation. They have a straightforward nature and are able to really focus on a goal very tenaciously. Once they sink their teeth in and claws, there's really no turning back. And this will be important to really balance that impetuous nature and the yang energy of the tiger when making big decisions about life and career. So you need to like look before you leap into a turbulency. Now, we actually can see in some, like a tiger mom that's always used, a tiger mom really will fight for her children, kind of push them for perfection. And on the one hand, that's really good to have that support. And then on the other hand, if it's too much, then it has a very destructive nature. And then the tiger zodiac, as I talked about earlier, has a fixed connection to an element, and that is actually the wood element. And that embodies those characteristics of yang, that very strong upward kind of movement, that springtime movement. So looking at the health forecast for 2022, so if we can look at the zodiac as a ancient personality test, Chinese medicine, and here is often met with skepticism and even called something like a pseudoscience, because it includes a lot of practices that might be considered spiritual. We're looking at the whole, we're looking at the entirety of your health, and also the forces that may be influencing it beyond what we can see in this more physical realm. So, as an aside, it's our job to educate the public on how this can benefit them. And, speaking to your patients or anybody who's really interested, this could be a very nice introduction into Chinese medicine. And we also have to educate ourselves as practitioners to not think of just treating and helping people as, again, earlier, oh, it's acupuncture or it's just herbs, and to not think that we're separate from the environment or even the celestial movements that are at play. So we need to really check our own prejudices and superstitions around these practices that are considered outside a monotheistic idea, right? And I actually, so this is something I created a quiz, and later on, if you want the transcript for this talk, there's going to be a link to it. You just need to text needle 714-332-6926. It'll be later, and I'll repeat that after too. So if you want to take the quiz that I made, there's going to be a link to it. So both yin and yang are part of the zodiac and are divided into the yin and yang dominance. Right. So I made the list. The yang, the more yang, predominantly yang signs are the monkey, the tiger, the rat, the horse, the dragon, and the dog. They also have yin in them. The yin signs are more rooster, rabbit, pig, snake, ox, and goat. Acupuncture channels as celestial maps. So earlier in the first slide, there was that quote from the Suen Neijing that was talking about, how the channels are the maps on humans. And, so we didn't really touch on this when I was in school. It was kind of like glazed over, somehow missed the aspect of the cosmology or the astrology aspect of Chinese medicine. And so this is, part of what I was, mentioning earlier, that in our education, there's all of this idea of like things being separate, and then we have to make those links. The links are already there. So the meridian channels are actually named according to their degree of yin and yang. So we go back to yin and yang. We're back to the time clock. So as we know, there is the Taiyang zone, or the meridians called Taiyang, Shaoyang, Yangming, and then we're looking at Taiyin, Shaoyin, Jueyin. And all of these terms actually describe phases and positions of the sun and moon. So we've been using these meridians and strategies with maybe not making a connection to, what the larger picture is, right? The universe picture of actually our health and wellness. This is also, the clock describes our circadian biological clock that relates to day and night, and also seasonal. So of like how we are in different seasons, which has to do with the Earth's orbit around the sun. And so we already know we treat preventatively in the summertime for, so that we'll be strong, or we'll have really strong lungs in the fall, when that is going to be more the time of the metal element, and more susceptible to like cough and cold. So you've already been doing it and you didn't even know it. So here I created a chart that like looks at what the zodiac sign actually is kind of correlated with the different meridians. So for instance, the tiger is associated with the lung, and that's the metal element. And according to the time clock, this is the more yin, even though tiger itself is yang. But in terms of, it gets very confusing, right? It can be, there's always the yin and the yang aspect of it, right? So this chart is going to be available in the transcript, so I'm not going to read through to read through it, but I think you'll understand how this works, right, as a practitioner, and then you can look into it a little bit more. And then here is the chart of the 5 elements, where we look at the wood, the fire, the earth, the metal, and the water. And what is coordinated with the different planets, we're looking at Jupiter, Mars, Saturn, Venus, and Mercury. These, when you the points that are considered from the Jing points to the Hasi points, or also known as the antique points, those are all really correlated with different planets and planetary movement. This is an extremely in-depth study into, astrology, the zodiac, and how you might use it with acupuncture points. As we know that some practices, they're going to treat the lung at 3 a.m., or, treating different times during the day or during the night and using certain points. That's not really so convenient in the way that we practice. And I don't know if anybody still practices that way, but that is a thing. Maybe not so much used, but maybe we need to investigate it. Definitely. Okay. So hopefully you're going to be more interested. You can contact me. Maybe you want to do a study group. I find this is becoming more and more fascinating as how it relates to how we practice our medicine. So here's the question. Did you really know about these deep connections before, right? I really, I didn't know as much as I know now, as I was studying and putting together something for Mind Body Green and writing about astrology and kind of like making it digestible and how does it relate to Chinese medicine, that we really need to make those connections, right? So I want to learn much more, and hopefully you do too. So here is a picture of the Milky Way, and we are uh, 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago, the position of our galaxy was not the same. So we are always in a process of shifting and moving. If we One thing that I think about is like with science or astronomy is the idea that we're in a fixed point and that we're looking at the stars from a fixed point. And that is really, in a way, a very old way of thinking that, during the Middle Ages, was that they thought that the Earth was at the center and the sun was rotating around. But the fact is that we're constantly in some orbit, a smaller orbit of a greater orbit, and we're actually moving through the universe. And so there are so many more, forces at play. The only way we really can understand where we are is to kind of look at our environment and observe the different changes that are happening and how does that relate to us, right? And so we're always looking for something to be predictable, which is not so easy, right? But these ancient practices were really about observing and using them as a way for longevity, promoting health and wellness, and really being connected to more than just what was in front of us, but to our community as well. So I hope you enjoyed the presentation. And next week, we're going to have Virginia Duran. She's going to be hosting another interesting topic for you. And I'd like to thank again the American Acupuncture Council. If you're interested in a transcript of this presentation, you just need to text NEEDLE, that's NEEDLE, to the number 714-332-6926. And thank you for listening. And please, make comments and contact. And I hope that you're going to go and take the quiz and give me some feedback how you like the quiz.